All right. Brew some coffee, pour a cup. It's time for some more coffee talk.
It's BASCH-mania! Let me tell you something, brother. He gave us everything he had in him tonight. What you gonna do when BASCH-mania runs wild? Oh, it's gonna be a good one. And business just picked up here on the podcast. Oh, yeah.
We're back.
So you need 4 matches.
You need
to
4
qualify.
matches to qualify for an at-large bid or to just qualify. He didn't. So Real Woods only has, I think, 3 matches. And because he lost the
final,
the Pac-12 final, only the champion goes. So he technically can't get an at-large bid to NCAAs because he doesn't have 4 matches. But I almost texted you. So Saturday we do the show.
right?
Then literally right after we publish it, I saw somebody reshare Real Woods Instagram like, I'm in. So I'm like, well, we were just talking about NCAAs and 141. Like
Right.
he's somebody who could come in and
Yeah,
wreak havoc.
He's freaking good.
So then you have like, now it's like he might not even qualify.
Which would be a shame, but
I know, and it's
rules are rules.
Yeah, and I was listening to Willie's live stream this morning, and Willie had said something along the lines of you can still get on like a waiver or something.
Okay.
So you can still apply for a waiver. So he might be in.
There has to be a way.
The only other thing I want to talk about real quick before our guest who just hopped in and hopped out. So we talked Saturday about the PRTC.
Mm-hmm.
And then we quickly got clarification on everything within an hour. And I wanted to like go back and delete it, like just remove those 4 minutes of the podcast. I'm like, you know what? It's already up, and I think it's genuine. Like it.
Yeah, and I don't think we were trying to badmouth them or anything like that. Just pretty much saying what the information that was presented to me. I was pretty much just putting.
Yeah,
and
it makes you think, like, it makes me think more like this platform is growing. And it's wild that we can say something we heard and the end person within an hour or two is contacting us. Like, here's the whole story, full details, everything.
I thought that was very cool.
Yeah. And it was exactly what we had thought, or I had thought. It was,
right.
There was a miscommunication and things changed at the last minute. Because I felt bad. There was another guy from the PRTC who reached out to me, and he was all excited to listen to the episode. And I'm like, just so you know, like, and he had said, look, I already saw it. Like, not that big of a deal. Like, you guys handled it fine. Like, it got cleared up. All is good. And I'm like, thank you, because I love what the PRTC is doing. I love the entire team at the PRTC. So I was relieved.
They have some good guys there.
They do.
Those are good people. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're building something that I think is going to be able to rival any of the RTCs in the country. They could very well have a couple Olympic team members this year. I mean, not right now, but like Burroughs, if Burroughs makes a team, Mark Hall, like they've got World Olympic team caliber guys, World Olympic medalists already. You start talking like next year and stuff, or even Worlds later.
A little down the road too.
Like,
Joey McKenna's really good too. So
yeah, and those guys are all still early in their development. Like Mark Hall is just beginning. Joey McKenna's really he's getting kind of locked in. He had both him and McFadden had an unfortunate kind of weekend. Neither of them placed in Ukraine. I think Joey went 2-1. David went 1-1. Victoria Anthony got a bronze. I'm such a Victoria Anthony fan. She's awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
I've also been trying to get Helen on the podcast, and she's been so busy lately.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen that she was telling me she's been Penn State training a little bit.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, I don't know. Just in and out, getting ready to scrap.
And that's such good content. I feel like people want to see, like Helen in the Penn State room. And there's hammers. Like we've talked about the NWC women, like Jane Valencia, Jennifer Page. Like there's some hammers. That's the content we're here for. Anyways, I think our guest is ready for us. I love the hoodie, by the way.
I love the hoodie also.
Yeah, I love that. That one picture is still like one of my favorites on Solutions.
It was a good one.
Let's see if we can get Shane on. Let's see if he has video. I don't hear anything.
What's up, guys? Can you see me?
I can't see you.
We can't see you.
Man.
Hold on. I'm asking you formally through the app to start your camera. There should be a
There
button.
we go.
There we go. There he is.
How you guys doing?
I'm doing great.
I just moved into this place. So you can see I got some home improvement stuff going on in the back.
I think it looks pretty good.
That's real
Vincenzo,
life.
you probably will never remember this as my guest, and I've always wanted to ask you this.
Oh, let's do it.
Shane's just taking over the podcast.
We're doing Wisconsin, Penn
Interview
State
now.
last year in Madison, and you and I are doing an interview, and you look at me dead serious, and you're like, "You look really good." I'm like, is this guy freaking messing with me or what? I didn't know whether to laugh or say. I just was like, I'm like, this guy's freaking screwing with me right now.
Hey, I was saying you presented yourself well, man.
That was good stuff.
Shane's always dressed to the nines. I've never not seen him.
Man.
Whether you're on a broadcast, whether I've seen you at arenas, whether you're in a picture on Facebook, grabbing a drink with someone, you're always dressed to the nines.
If I could do, and I mean, I wish I had a huge budget. I mean, I wish I made tons of money where I could buy, $20,000 suits. But
yeah, I think we all do. But.
Oh yeah, one thing I always liked about with Shakur Rashid, he was into that stuff. So I'd like BS with him at weight. I mean, he always had a great, some interesting looks.
Yeah, you should have just asked him for a few tips. You could honestly, you might have been able to pick up. I mean, styles are a little different, but you could have picked up a thing or two. Everyone can from him.
Well, here's what I'm picking up on you right now, Cenzo, and this is fascinating to me. So, going back maybe 2 months ago, do a lot of stuff with Cliff Keen. So I'm talking to Chad Clark with Cliff Keen, and he had mentioned once something about Carhartt. Cliff Keen had some kind of campaign with Carhartt a couple of years back. So I'm thinking, I mean, wheels are spinning. I'm sitting in Tom Keen's office. I'm like, Carhartt and wrestling. Like, I wouldn't wear Carhartt, but that's the wrestling audience, right? I mean, that's what they wear. I mean, they're out.
I just took off a Carhartt hat, literally.
Well, so here's the funny part. So I'm talking to Chad Clark. I'm like, Chad, you mentioned once you had this contact at Carhartt. I think it'd be a really good fit, on the wrestling side of things. And he goes, yeah, I'm really good friends with the lady in marketing. This is like a year ago, probably. And he goes, Carhartt is actually, kind of switching their focus over to be more like a trendy brand. And I'll never forget sitting in his office, and I'm like, this is the funniest freaking thing I've ever heard. Carhartt thinks they're going to get like cool all of a sudden.
They did it.
Honest to God, probably about 3 months ago, I got a daughter that's a freshman in high school, dresses well, she's into fashion, whatever. And she freaking comes over in a Carhartt hat. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
And now you see it come full circle.
And here we go.
Cenzo's got the Carhartt hat on. You just mentioned the Carhartt hat. And then Lauren was over yesterday, and she was going someplace, and she goes, "Hey, Dad, can I have $20 to go get a new Carhartt hat? I want a black one." And I'm just like, I never in a million years would have thought. It just goes to show you the power of branding and marketing. Like, it's insane.
We may need to get Carhartt into wrestling somehow. We should talk about that
for the trendy apparel.
Yeah,
for the trendy apparel. Lululemon and Carhartt.
I'm gonna go grab my. I know you guys normally go with coffee, which I normally go with, but I just finished some Starbucks. I'm going to grab some tea. I'll be right back.
Go grab it.
Go right ahead. I love the immediate energy.
This is what I was telling you. When you talk to Shane, and you get the same energy that you either hear in a broadcast or you hear in a video. It's not. Some people have to turn on broadcast energy or interview energy. Shane has energy
all time.
That's why I wanted him.
Pretty intense.
And I actually, so this is kind of you definitely don't remember this. I think I was probably a freshman, ran into you at an elevator. First time I talked to you just by passing, and you were like, hey, how's it going? Just like real, like, and I was like, this guy's for real. Like, this is not a drill. Like,
and on the flip side, Cenzo, what I always admired about you, I mean, if somebody asked me doing Big Ten the last 10 years, I don't know if there's anybody as cool as you. I mean, you were always just like, you never got rattled. You were just Joe Cool. I mean, I remember.
Wow.
I remember
This
you
is
and I
great.
doing an interview. I think it was just for track wrestling. I had the little handy cam. You and Imar, I think we're getting ready to wrestle, and I think that was at Michigan State, if I remember right.
Okay.
And I remember walking away from that interview thinking, like, that kid's unbelievable. Like, you're just like, yeah, we're just going. You know, it was kind of the Penn State. I'm fascinated, and one of these days maybe I'll get a toe in, but I'm fascinated by the media approach of Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating to me.
How so? Just the simplicity.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, I'd be very curious to, you know, even from peeling the onion back a little bit. When I look at Penn State, the approach. I mean, you guys got amazing talent. I mean, you can't deny that. You guys are all, you know, that approach wouldn't work with me, right? I mean, with like average talents. But it is pretty incredible on how the perspective and the approach at Penn State, and you can tell that, like, when you showed up at Penn State, Vincenzo, were you built like that? I mean, were you like that, or did you kind of learn that culture and that philosophy?
I think that I was like that originally, but it just really just helped me flourish. I think that it just from both ends just worked out that way. I mean, I'm, you know, kind of reserved, just laid back, just, you know, like you said, relax, chill, whatever.
Cool.
And cool, very cool. Cool.
No doubt.
And that's just how we are as a program also. So it's just like, just kind of feeds into one another. And that's just how most of our guys are too. So
Shane,
go ahead.
Shane, I want to ask you a question because you're the first guest in 104 episodes I've had on. Everybody else is world champ, Olympic champ, NCAA champ. And I want to start having more wrestling personalities on. And I want to, there's so like you, like I legitimately, I don't look forward to anybody as much as you commentating. And you're like a brain.
I second that, by the way.
You're a brain of just like knowledge and energy. But I've never heard your background story on wrestling. Like, did you wrestle? Were you good? Did you suck like I did? Like, what was your story to get into wrestling?
Yeah, it's a great story. Actually, on Facebook, I posted a picture this week of my first wrestling tournament. I was 7 years old, March of 1983. It was in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin.
I wasn't even born.
Yeah. I mean, this is, yeah, I know if Cenzo was not. So yeah, this is a long time ago. But my dad was a barber, and I grew up in a town of 7,000 people, Ripon, Wisconsin. And my dad had a friend that was a farmer. So we would go out to visit my dad's buddies, like milking cows. And his name was RD. And RD had a brother that was the heavyweight on the high school wrestling team. So my dad would cut hair on Friday nights until 8 o'clock, come and pick my brother up. He's 2 years younger than I am. And we'd go watch Ripon High School wrestling. Next thing I know, I'm at this wrestling tournament as a first grader, white t-shirt, you know, shorts on, some old Sears catalog, brown Velcro tennies. I mean, I remember towing the line, and I didn't have my toe on the line right. So the ref's like, okay, move your foot over here. I had no clue what I was doing. No clue. I got pinned in 10 seconds.
Did you get a caution? Did you get a caution, or he?
I didn't.
No.
I don't recall getting the. I don't recall. I mean, hopefully, a rule's a rule. But that was, little did I know that day would change my life. I mean, really. I mean, it's really.
And were you good? Like, were you good in high school?
I was pretty good in high school. So Wisconsin had. I wrestled. I went to a private school. So my junior year, I took third. My senior year, I was ranked number one all year. Got beat in the state finals. And the kid, I just recently found this out. The guy that beat me, who I've stayed in touch with, he ended up winning 3 state titles. Went to Stanford. I think he was a runner-up in the Pac-10 at that time. Made the tournaments, and he won Fargo. He beat Strip Matter, I believe. I believe he beat Jody to win a Fargo title. But I was up by. I had never lost to him. I was up by 7 or 8 with about a minute to go.
So like he probably would have been a PA state qualifier back in the day.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, are you saying him or me?
Either of you guys.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm being honest, this is the one thing about this job I don't like. There's only one thing about broadcasting these high level events that it's like, man, that's kind of a bummer. When I came out of high school, if you would have asked me, like, are you good? I would have been like, yeah, I was really good. Like, I was really good. Lost a couple times, in a couple of years. Like, I was really good. Now what I've learned, probably better than average.
Did you wrestle in college?
So my dream my entire life was to wrestle at Arizona State. That was my bedroom was all decked out in Arizona State Sun Devil stuff. Went to a Bobby Douglas camp. Following my freshman year of high school, Zeke Jones was there. It was pretty cool. Long story short, get out of high school. That was the plan. And my oldest son will be 25 here in a couple of months. So
you don't look old enough to have a 25-year-old son.
Yeah, he'll be 25. He'll be 25 and he's 6'1". He's I don't know. He's way bigger than I am, but great kid. I mean, I would. It's one of those things. I wouldn't trade him for anything, but would I do a difference? A lot of times people be like, "Oh, I do it all the same," and I understand that your path. I mean, it all works out. Yeah. But
so you had a kid and that didn't go to college.
So I got 4 years left. I got 4 years left. So
he got all the eligibility left.
Yeah.
If somebody's looking for a 4, I could probably get down to 49 and give somebody the best.
All right, you beat Zane. You beat Zane, and then advertise.
I can't imagine what it would be like to wrestle Zane Rutherford.
It's not fun.
It's not fun. No.
How did you do it? Did you wrestle with him quite a bit?
I actually, funny enough, we've been wrestling a lot more recently than we have over the past, I would say, year or two. But we used to wrestle a lot. Then, pretty much once he graduated, and I was just bigger, he was getting back down smaller, so our weights were kind of further apart. But now we're a lot closer together because I'm getting smaller again. So now we've been scrapping a little bit. Yeah, he's really good. I can't say really enough about it. He's mean. He's
punishing.
Great hand fighter. Yeah.
Shane, I'm really curious because I sucked in high school wrestling, sucked. Our team was number 1 in the state. We were ranked 20th in the country, I think. And I was proud of that. But I kind of stopped doing anything with wrestling. And then in 2008, I launched my company. Cal Sanderson became one of my first clients. And from there, it's just continued to catapult into more and more. For you, you're now involved in everything. You're broadcasting Big Tens, you're broadcasting NCAAs, everything else. What got you from I'm not going to college, I'm done wrestling to here?
This is about a 10-hour story. I mean, everybody always says I should write a book. This is it's crazy.
Give me the Cliff Notes.
I always wanted to be a sports broadcaster. That's all I ever wanted to do. 10 years old. That's why I got a picture over here. I'm 12 years old doing baseball. Baseball is my first love. But I got some breaks. I mean, I got some breaks. I went out I was selling cars. I remember I was 25 years old because I had Austin, had to put things on hold, be a dad. That was really the focus. Had a couple of horrible jobs, driving a forklift, worked at a powder metal factory covered in soot. It was brutal.
That sounds fun to me. I want
forklifts
and I love that stuff.
It sucked. So then I went to sell cars, and I love sales. And I remember sitting outside. I mean, I can
only imagine buying a car from Shane's
it was a good little job. But I remember, I was doing pretty well. I was 25, had my own house, and driving a BMW, feeling pretty good. But I didn't love it.
That is pretty good.
Yeah, I was doing all right.
Yeah.
But I didn't love it. So I remember I'll never forget this. I was sitting, it was a Thursday in 2001, maybe July 2001. And I'm sitting, I'd sold 3 cars that day, probably made a pretty good chunk of money. I'm sitting in my car. I look at take the mirror. I tilt it towards myself and I'm like, Shane, you probably made $4,000 or $5,000 today and you hate this. You hate it. I go to this little hole in the wall radio school. 10 months later, I sold everything. I'm driving a $500 Plymouth Grand Fury, no air conditioning, and I got marks in my arms from paying for gas, so I could, because I was donating plasma. Because what I was doing is I was driving to Milwaukee, and I got a radio job, $6 an hour. I'm going to cover a Brewer game. I'm getting close to Miller Park. I look in the mirror. Probably shouldn't have done this while I was driving, but I'll never forget it. And I looked at myself. I'm like, you're donating plasma to pay for gas. You're driving a $500 car. You make $6 an hour, and you absolutely freaking love this. It was a game changing. It was a moment that I will never, ever, ever forget. And I'd be sleeping in cars. First high school wrestling tournaments I ever did in Wisconsin, where I just was covering it for a radio station, was maybe 2002 or 2003. I remember sitting in the parking lot at the Kohl Center, sleeping in the car. I don't know how cold it was, but it was.
I've been there. I've done that.
Yeah,
literally.
it was cold. I mean, I've slept in the car probably at least 100 nights, I would say, in my life. Plenty of nights in the car, but it always makes it, so now when I do the Wisconsin State tournament, now it's on TV. I'm on that TV broadcast, and I just always appreciate the ride. I really do, because I just love that.
Where do you live now? Do you still live in Wisconsin?
Live in Wisconsin. Yeah, I live in Oshkosh, which is right between Green Bay and Milwaukee.
Go Bills.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah.
I'm not even going to talk football right now. I'm too upset.
I'm very.
Like?
JJ Watt should have went to
Pittsburgh.
Buffalo.
I'm from Pittsburgh, man.
JJ Watt should have freaking went to Buffalo.
He should have went.
That was stupid. Arizona. Oh, it's not about the money. It's about the championships. So you go to Arizona.
It keeps him out of the AFC.
Yeah, I agree. But why Buffalo? He doesn't want to.
Because
he doesn't want to go to Buffalo.
He doesn't like the weather in Buffalo. But like
too cold. Yeah.
If any team has like the hype of falling short this year and how big next year could be, like teams like Pittsburgh, Green Bay, they're always there. Buffalo's on that like rise. You add a guy like JJ Watt, I think that could have been electric. Now he's dead to me.
I thought it was going to be either Pittsburgh to go with his brothers or Green Bay.
You would think
he's a Wisconsin guy. Arizona surprised me. But then you think about good weather. Murray's good quarterback. It's in the NFC. It wasn't shocking.
It makes sense.
The AFC.
No disrespect to the Green Bay or the Steelers, but I hope the Buffalo makes it to the Super Bowl and beats the crap out of Arizona. They're not going to make it, but I hope they do, just so the Bills can beat them.
Bills are a great story.
If any three of our teams make it to the Super Bowl, I hope it's against Arizona and JJ Watt gets crushed. So Shane, so you start doing radio, you start doing tournaments, and then how'd you get in with the Big Ten, NCAA, everybody else?
Yeah, so timing is huge. I remember with the Big-10’s going back, I got in doing the PA for the Wisconsin Badgers, and I don't remember the year, but I'm doing PA for the Badgers. Next thing you know, I'm doing the Big-10’s for UWBadgers.com. In let's call it 2010, right around there. I was at the Big Ten Championships doing that for UWBadgers.com. It was at Northwestern. I think David Taylor was a freshman, I believe. I could be. I'm close. Anyways, I did the selection show. I think it was the second year they started doing the selection show, so I was on that. Through that was I think it must have been the same year where they had those live sports radio deals at the national tournament.
Okay.
I did that final with Brian Hazard. Yeah. I got done. It was in Philadelphia. I go back to the hotel. I think it was 2011. Go back to the hotel. I see Jim Gibbons in the hotel lobby. I'm like, I gotta introduce myself to Jim Gibbons. Okay. While I'm talking, you talk about like getting a huge. This might have been the biggest break I ever got. I'm talking to Jim Gibbons, and I am by far the hardest on myself. I don't need to go to social media if I want to get humbled. I just do it by myself in front of the mirror. Like I can make
I'm the same way.
Yeah, I don't need any trust me, nobody's going to be as hard on me as I am.
Nobody needs to tell me I wrestled bad. I full well know that. Yeah.
So I was I'm talking to Jim, and Quentin Wright was walking past, and he had won his first national title. And somehow him and I get talking to each other. And while I'm talking to Quentin, somebody else is talking to Jim, and I can hear them. And they're like, God, we heard this guy today. He was so good. You got to find him, blah, 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 blah. Jim
You're
goes,
like, I'm right here.
Yeah, well, Jim goes, and I'll be honest, I knew I'm like, I got a good feeling about this. Jim goes, Shane, come over here. And he goes, yeah, Shane was doing this, start talking. And I'm like, yeah, well, what do you want me to? They're like, that's him. That's him. Next thing you know, I'm in with Big Ten that next year, that next fall, because it was like an opening. And the timing has been phenomenal. There's been a few things where the timing has just worked out. It couldn't work out any better.
And it definitely, I mean, the timing and everything is awesome. But it's definitely, the work you put into this too. Right.
Absolutely.
But it all goes together. You got to have the work and you got to have those kind of freak things happen too.
Absolutely.
Pretty much.
I mean, the harder you work, the luckier you get. Like, I hate the word luck. I hate it.
Yeah.
But I do kind of like that line because it's true. And then once you get an opportunity, and that's what I love about this job more than anything else, is I don't graduate. I don't graduate. I can keep doing this. God willing, as long as I can. But it is the closest feeling. And I didn't wrestle in college, but I remember wrestling in high school, that feeling of competition when you're going to battle. There's nothing like it. And this is very similar. I mean, if I'm at Rec Hall or BJC, Carver Hawkeye walking down that tunnel, it's like the same thought process. Like,
and it's funny because like being an entrepreneur, I've had a company now for 12 and a half years. I've had so many ups and downs. Now I'm starting a podcast a year and a half ago, and so many things are happening. And I'm taking everything I learned from BASCH Solutions and I'm putting it into this. So it's funny to just, you all of a sudden, nobody ever knows your background. Like, everybody thinks you're an overnight success, you're this, you're that. All of a sudden people start seeing Shane Sparks in every broadcast. They want, like, everybody from me, Cenzo, Willie, all you see is Shane Sparks and Jim Gibbons, Shane Sparks and Jim Gibbons. That's what everybody wants. But it's funny because you don't hear that background of, I slept in a car 100 nights. I made $6 an hour. I sold plasma for gas. Now you see me. Before we talk Big Tens and NCAAs, which I really want to do, what advice would you have?
And hold on, we're going to hear why Shane's picking Penn State to win Big Tens, but go on.
So, yes, 100%. I want to know what advice you would have for people who, like, it's easier for somebody like you or I who sacrificed a ton, got where we wanted to be, and looked back and said the sacrifice was worth it. But in that time, you didn't know if it was going to pay off, or you didn't know. What advice would you have for people who are younger who want to be somewhere where they're not yet?
That's a real good question. I would say number one, it's self-belief. I mean, you got to be humble. Super important, but you got to have something inside too, where you got to be driven. I mean, I think, I don't know if you're born with that or not. I don't know, but I would say immediately after that, you better be kind. You better be easy to work with. You better do the little things. Like, I mean, I tell I don't say this stuff for effect. I mean it. I told the Big Tens, like, you need somebody to clean the bathrooms, I'm your guy. Like, I'm a big believer in, like, knowing how to, you got to know how to influence people. I remember one time I was at Carver Hawkeye and they had a stage manager and she's helping with a few things. And then she went to pick my garbage up. And I pick my own garbage up. You don't pick my garbage up. Nobody picks my garbage up. And then she asked me,
that's the teaser for this episode. Nobody picks my garbage.
Nobody picks up my garbage.
Nobody. And then even she's like, hey, can I get you something to drink? I'm like, hey, that's really nice. You tell me when you want something to drink, and I'm getting you water. Like, I think I think that kind of that servant mentality can, and I mean it. I mean, I believe in it. So it's not like I just think, I think it's, you got to do a good job when you get there, when you get the opportunity. I don't have a day of TV training in my life. Like, I make jokes sometimes in my mind. Like, there's been times that I don't advertise this stuff too much.
We want to hear it.
I've been on sets. Like, I've been in the Big Ten studio and I'm on the desk and there's like 3 or 4 cameras and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I have no freaking clue what I'm doing here. And I'm afraid to ask, it's like, because they'll be looking at me like, didn't you learn? That's like the first thing they teach you at school. And my little thing in my mind is like, I didn't go to broadcast school, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Like, this whole thing. So the fact that I've been fortunate enough to get to this point without any training tells you that I must be okay to work with. Because
Shane, the number of people who think like I'll do business with someone for years, and then they'll ask me like, so by the way, I got to ask you, like, where'd you go to college? Oh, I didn't. And they're like, what? And I get talking to them about every different thing that I think helped contributed. And one of those factors is definitely never thinking you're above the job. A buddy of mine a couple of weeks ago, I asked him, he builds houses and we just built the house. I'm like, hey, would you come in and do crown molding throughout? It's like, I don't do that stuff no more. We're not 25 years old. And I'm like, wow. And he's like, what? I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I'm ever above a job. If it's the weekend and I can do it, I'll do it. I'm not above it. And I think that's a huge, huge trait for success, like in business, is to not think you're above a job. So I like that.
Yeah. You got to just be, I always tell my kids, like, 4 words to live by: be kind, be normal. Like, just be kind, be humble, be normal. Don't think you're that important, because the bottom line is this, and I'm smart enough to know this: the show goes on.
Yeah.
Am I the only guy that could do Big-10’s? No, there's a lot of people that could do it. And I know that. So I appreciate getting to do it. I love doing it. But sooner or later, the tilt-a-whirl is going to get turned off, and I'm going to have to get off the ride.
All right, but
what it is.
For now, you're here. So let's talk Big-10’s. And first of all, if anybody's living under a rock.
For now, you're here. And
yeah.
What's that?
Cenzo, what are you going to say?
No, go ahead.
Oh,
go ahead.
What I was going to say is, if you've been living under a rock and you're listening to this, Shane announced last week that the Big Ten is broadcasting every session of the Big-10’s on the Big Ten Network, which is huge. And I was nervous because I heard through the grapevine a while ago that Flo lost that contract. So I'm like, man, if we don't get that coverage. So I was pumped to hear that. So I want to talk Big-10’s. Interesting conversation too with Cenzo, who I think was the last episode, threw a line about not winning a Big Ten championship and wanting to come back next year.
It's unbelievable when you want to put the perspective of how good the Big Ten is, and I might be able to use this for a while, and I hate to Cenzo rub salt in the wound, but think about this.
Do it.
You look at Cenzo and Spencer Lee. They got 1 combined.
Are you going to use that stat this weekend?
That's a great stat.
I will say, and you can quote this: Big Ten tournament is harder than the NCAA tournament.
Why do you think that? Is it because
it's the depth? It's like, so you don't NCAA tournament, your first match, maybe first 2 matches, the guys are good. Everyone in the NCAA tournament's good, but it's not that Big Ten grit. The guys in the Big Ten are just tough. Like, they're gonna fight you. They will fist fight you. Yeah, it's just like Big Ten guys are tough and they're good wrestlers. So you got to be ready to go first match right away.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, and you're right. And I've never done it, but I can only imagine. You better be ready. I mean, You better be ready, because you bring in the Big Ten, you bring your B+ game.
That's not it. Yeah,
it's not going to be good enough. Mm-hmm. Like, against a lot of guys, that might be good enough, but.
Shane, do you have favorites? Because you seem pretty neutral when you're at least broadcasting. Yeah, I know from conversations past, I know, like, on the senior level, we've talked about favorites of ours. But when you're broadcasting, do you find yourself, like, pulling for one guy or another? You know what? I'm being honest here. If I get to know some of these guys a little bit, if I get to know some of these guys and have a real good I can't tell you anything bad about anybody I've ever dealt with. A lot of them are really good kids, So, man, do I ever really pull for anybody? And I mean this. I don't know if it's that I pull for people as much as I feel bad for some guys that lose. But, like, let's say RBY DeSanto. Let's say they're in the finals this weekend. I just want to for one or the other. No. Come on. What do you mean? I admire, because here's why. When I look at those 2 guys, I just admire both of them. I mean, I'm 45 years old, and I'll tell you this. I try not to show a lot of fanboy, but I'm a wrestling fan. Correct. I'm a wrestling fan. So I'm just excited about that matchup. Do you have a school you root for?
Who you got?
Man, the one Tom Brand's coach, Cenzo, I don't make predictions. So I'm going to ask you this, Cenzo. I'm going to turn this on you. Here's why. What a broadcaster. You asked around on you. I think you guys will agree on this, and this is the one coming into this podcast. I'm like, I got to ask Cenzo this, because I'm really curious. Because I talk about some things on a broadcast sometimes, and I'm like, I think I'm right. But maybe somebody's
I do that on here.
Maybe they're listening. They're like, this guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. So here's an example of that. If you told me to make a prediction with the Cenzo and RBY, here's what I want to know. I go, okay. First of all, just guessing. Shit, I have no idea. That's who knows. Here, but if you could tell me this, we'll use RBY as an example. Does he have a girlfriend? How's she doing? Did he sleep good that week? Did he have some exams and maybe he procrastinated and because of that he had to stay up a couple nights? How was his weight cut? How's his, are his parents getting along? Like all these things that nobody knows. Maybe he's got a kink in his neck because he slept funny. I've come to appreciate, again, in my mind, so many things have got to go right. And one little thing is off. I'll give you, Darian Cruz from Lehigh. I will never forget this story. Him and I are talking once. He was telling me, long story short, that he's about to wrestle in the All-American round, and his girlfriend calls him up. And he's like looking at the phone, and he's like, I shouldn't take this. He takes the call, and she's like, we got to talk. He's like, yeah. He knows where it's going. He's like, can we just talk later? She's like, no, I have to do this now. She breaks up with him right before he's about to go out and wrestle. And I'm like, nobody in that arena probably knew what the deal was. If you knew that, that would change the way that you would predict things.
All right, Cenzo,
wait. That also happened to Mark Hall at Big-10’s one year, right before he wrestled in the finals.
No.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
How hard do people plan that? Like this is like,
no, I don't think so. But
that's wild.
This, Cenzo, and you don't have to. If this is personal, just be like, I just don't want to answer that. What's something that happened to you that had the biggest impact on a wrestling match?
Oh, I don't know. I've been fortunate where I haven't really had anything like outside like that really affect me a ton. And like we said, Joe Cool, things don't really bother me a bunch. No, I don't know, probably sleeping bad or something like that.
Okay.
Like really, like that's it. Like I said, I've been fortunate. So
yeah, so that's why I don't make predictions, because I have my youngest daughter is 10. Maybe we'll do it this weekend.
But you still can.
I'll let her predict, and I'll predict, and she might get more right than I do.
Right. Yeah. I mean, all
right. So who do you think wins 141?
There you go.
Oh my gosh.
And it's okay to be wrong. We're wrong all the time.
Yeah. That weight class. God, honest to God, I have no idea. Who do you guys think's going to win that?
Nick Lee. Yeah.
Man.
Nick's only loss in the last year or two was a super close match with Pletcher. That was it.
He's a stud. Nick Lee's a stud. I mean, he puts up 15 points a match. He's Nick Lee, and I made this, and it might have been a little bit of an overstatement. Here's how critical I am on these broadcasts of myself. I went back and watched a Penn State broadcast, and I had said in the broadcast, if you took every second of footage on Nick Lee, you'd never see him back up. And I thought to myself,
I heard it.
I thought to myself, like, he's probably backed up for a second. So I just hate being wrong. Mm-mm. But Nick Lee is constantly moving
He might
forward.
not be, though. I think
sometimes
sometimes he might need to take a couple steps backwards. And
okay.
Yeah.
Nick Lee's intriguing to me because I've talked to him just a couple of times. He's one of those guys. I like him. Super nice guy.
Amazing.
Oh yeah,
amazing.
He's a guy that you like. Seriously, Cenzo, I wanted you to get a Big Ten title. Like, I just wanted you to get one.
I appreciate that. I wanted one. I wanted one also.
But I was glad. I wanted. It was one of those things. If somebody would have said a couple years ago, like, I would have. Honestly, I'd have been.
But
like,
so last year, were you
Cenzo to get one?
But so last year, were you specifically rooting for Cenzo?
In the back,
I wanted Cenzo to win a Big Ten title. I did. But I love Marinelli.
Marinelli's a great kid. He came on here.
So I'll tell you this.
Can't speak for the kid.
I want Marinelli to win the national title. I want him to win it.
That's nice.
Here's the thing, like, so, and Shane, this is another question, I guess. Like, for me, I'm so Penn State loyal that you say 49 or you say 57 or you say any of these weights, you talk 65, right? I wouldn't be mad.
We got him brainwashed so bad. But
yeah. Like, as soon as you say 65, I'm thinking, man, what a cool story if
Joe
Joe
Lee.
Lee does it. That's not to say that, like, if he loses, I'm not rooting for Marinelli. I'm just so loyal. I want that. Do you find yourself loyal to any team?
I don't. I can honestly tell you I'm not loyal to any team. I just want to do
a good Matt return.
I appreciate a good Matt return. But I'll tell you this. Whether you're wrestling with your business, I do broadcasting.
Yeah.
I want to be the best. Like, that's what I want to do. When I get a coach that can help me out a little bit, like, maybe just give me some details. There was a story or a couple of years ago, because you got to have these coaches. One thing I'm proud of is I think every coach trusts me, because I get information. I know we're on these calls. I know I'm never going to say anything to anybody. Yeah. There was a time a lady came up to me. Penn State was wrestling Michigan. I think it was 2 years ago at BJC. And this lady came up to me. She's like, "Can you tell me if RBY is wrestling?" And I said, "Ma'am, I got to be honest." I said, "If you were Kale's mother, I wouldn't tell you." And that lady, I think, knew Kale, and it got back. Cody made a comment to me once that, and Casey Cunningham told me once, just that I remember one time he told me that he just said some nice things about me, that they trust me and they do interviews with me, and that stuff means a lot. So I'm
the same way.
Yeah, I just want to do the best I can, and I want to be right for everybody. That's my job. I'm not there to pick winners. I'm not. I look at these guys.
All right, so who do you think wins heavyweight?
Man, you look, heavyweight's interesting. I mean, I think at heavyweight, I would say this. I think you have three guys that have separated themselves, and I think so. I think Gable Steveson. We haven't seen him in Paris this year. So
Gable's the favorite. No matter what.
Gable's the favorite. I don't think there's anybody that's going to dispute that.
No, not at all.
What kind of gains has Paris made? Cassiope. I'm not. Again, I would say this. If one of those guys,
Cassiope's rounding out your big three.
Well, that's
ranked third.
Not yet.
Okay.
Kirkly coming up now too. Gosh, I mean, I've only seen him in one match. That's all I've seen him in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't think I think he's ranked 17th in the country, maybe. I don't think he's the 17th best heavyweight in the country. I would tell you that.
And back to Cassiope, we were talking about this. In a normal heavyweight year, a guy like Cassiope is like your front runner.
Sure.
Yeah, he's a good wrestler. Yeah. And it's just that depth there is crazy.
It comes back to this for me. Okay. And I'm a big baseball fan. I'm always using baseball analogies. Major League Baseball player, the 25th guy on the bench who his stats say that he's hitting $140, mislocation on a fastball and see what happens. It's going to be 450 feet out. And when you're wrestling a guy like Cassiope, if you're Steveson or Paris or Kirklead, whoever, and I put all these guys in that same basket, get out of position once, bring your B+ game. Don't be focused and ready to go. Overlook somebody and tell me how it works out for you, because you are playing with fire.
Exactly. And that's just the Big Ten too.
I think they did that. Yeah. I think that's what happened with Kassar. I think nobody was really counting on Kassar having an event like he did. And I don't know if either of you guys know like bracket pairings well enough, but like Flo's pre-seeds show Gable, Mason, Cassiope, the 1, 2, 3, and Kirk the 11. So if Kirk's the 11, where would he fall in the bracket? Do either of you know? Yeah.
I don't know where 11 goes. No,
I'm not sure, but
that's the other thing. Could you imagine Kirk?
Does the 11 wrestles the 6?
I think
10 wrestles 7, right. 11 wrestles 6.
So then who in the next round? So he'd have like
then the 6 and the 3.
Yeah,
so he would potentially have like a Trent Hilger, then Cassiope, then Mason or Gable in the final. So that's not bad. That's with him coming in so late. That's definitely the Big-10’s is just Shane. So since you love giving predictions, if you had to, we talked about this on Saturday's episode, and Cenzo thought if somebody shocked everybody the most, he went with Brady Berge. If someone shocks everybody at the Big-10’s, who would you say it's going to be?
Brady Berge on that list. He would be.
We've converted him.
Well, because I think I would say this. Put the women and children away. Put him in the house because Ryan Deacon is on the loose. And I don't know if you saw that match with him and Brayton Lee.
No, I didn't see it.
Oh, my God. I mean, Brayton Lee's good.
Yep.
Ryan Deacon carved him up. Now, again.
What was the score?
He majored him.
Hey, Ryan Deacon wrote out Jason Nolf to lose by like 13 one time.
Yeah, well, yeah. Nolf was,
wrote him out.
He's another animal.
Got like 4 stalling calls on top.
When you look at 57, Deacon, Kendall Coleman from Purdue, I love he's just a stud.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at guys like Berge, Caleb Young, Brayton Lee. I put those 3 guys.
I would say so too.
I think it's going to be. I'll make a prediction on this one. It's Ryan Deacon's to lose. Like Deacon's the guy to beat at 157. No doubt.
Yeah.
But
he is real good.
He had 2 years ago, I think he won 25 matches. He was really good. And then he's had the injuries, and now he looks like he's back on track or getting better every time he's out there. So yeah, again, I sound like a broken record. You toe the line against Brady Berge, you better be ready to go.
Yep.
You better be ready to roll.
Yeah. And we were just talking about the fact that when he lets it fly, he lets it fly. I don't think the college scene has seen what Brady Berge is truly capable of. And one of the questions I asked Cenzo last week, because I tweeted about it, was that this is the first time in I don't know how long that Penn State doesn't have a guy ranked number 1 at any weight. So I had asked how many NCAA champs do people think Penn State will have? So the Twitter poll responses were none, 1, 2, 3 plus. With Penn State having no ranked number 1 guys, where would you say how many national champs are going to have?
I will tell you a guy that I am super, super, super impressed with.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
Carter.
AB. Aaron Brooks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Aaron Brooks, to me, again, I don't care what he's ranked. Yeah. Aaron Brooks is the guy to beat at 184.
You're right.
I mean,
no, he's also seeded number 1. So he literally.
Well, if we're talking NCAA, Trent wrestled awesome.
He did. Yeah, Heigley was great.
But got that win over Bowl, and I thought that was great for him. But 84 at Big 10 is going to be good. 84 at NCAA is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So.
Shane, do you follow the other conferences like you do Big 10?
I watched the ACC championships last night. Yeah. I pay attention, the Pac-12s, but I don't. I'm not studying it like the Big 10's.
Right.
But I pay attention.
And let me ask you this: a couple weeks ago now, Cenzo, myself, and Sarah Hildebrandt had a discussion: folk style or freestyle. We all landed on freestyle.
I'm a folk style every day in the place on Sunday. I love folk style wrestling. I love riding time. I love the strategy. I love the mat returns. I'm a folk style guy. I appreciate freestyle. I like it. I mean, I'll go to the Olympic trials. That's going to be a phenomenal event, and I'll be into it. I'll be jacked up. Yep. But I love folk style wrestling. I love the control aspect of folk style.
Would you make senior level wrestling?
That's a good point.
Would you make senior level wrestling folk style if you had a vote for it?
Man, that's an interesting question.
US would just kill everybody.
Yeah, I like folk style.
But
wrestling.
even domestically, imagine you take some of these weights where you have these matches like Lee and Gilman, Burroughs Dake, all the Snyder and Cox, these matches that people talk about for years, and all of a sudden change it to folk style.
I'd be down. I love it.
Jaden takes down. Snyder's got to go on top.
Yeah. I just love those. I love the battles within the battle. 9 seconds on a restart. Those things are huge. Vincenzo, if you listen to me, is there anything I've ever said where you're like, he's over exaggerating this? That's not accurate. Have you ever heard me say anything where you're like, this guy's nuts?
Honestly, no, really not. You're pretty spot on most of the time.
Because the stuff stays the same. And I know I sound like a broken record, but last night was a good example. ACC final at 133. I can't remember the kid's name. I think he was from NC Myers. State. But he's wrestling Philippi from Pitt.
Yeah.
He takes him down to close takes him down on the edge with 8 or 9 seconds left, finishes the period on top, 2-0. Those are backbreakers.
And that's the win.
2 or 3 returns in the second period. Philippi went on bottom. Not the big booming returns, but still gets him down. My analogy on riding time is 3rd and 1 in a football game or a mat return. Guy gets up, it's 3rd and 1. You got to get tough and gritty. You can't just be letting the guy go. Like, take him down, build that riding time. You move the sticks, you maintain possession. Like, I talk about it all the time, but it's the same principles apply in big matches every year. The quick escapes. Let me ask you this, Cenzo. What would you say is the most in a big match? And they're all big, but championship wrestling, winning NCAA titles. What's something for you that you put a lot of focus on that maybe people didn't pay a whole lot of attention to?
I would say just honestly, like, not getting mat returned, really, like being able to escape whenever I get to my feet. So my freshman year in the NCAA finals, I have 1 minute and 5 seconds of riding time, or 1 minute 6 seconds of riding time going into the third period, and I go down. I escaped with riding time.
Oh man.
So yeah. And that
what
was
are you telling yourself when you're going on bottom? I mean, when you're going on bottom in the referee's position, what are you telling yourself?
Let's get the F out of here.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever I need to do.
That's how you win.
Whatever I need to do.
I'll admit, like, I love college wrestling. I love college wrestling. I love a great folk style match. My argument for folk style versus freestyle is, like, my wife became a freestyle fan because the guys that we become close with are wrestling the senior level. They're wrestling freestyle. So it's easier to pick up on than folk style. It's almost like taboo to talk about growing wrestling, but from a fan standpoint, it's definitely harder to start learning folk style than freestyle. And like what Cenzo was saying is I think in the last episode was like, yeah, folk style, when it's good, it's great. But like Cenzo on top, he's like, nobody would want to watch that. It's not like the exciting folk style matches. It's the ones where like a guy is on top doing nothing for 6 minutes.
Yeah, but like freestyle. But here's my argument on that.
Hey,
like freestyle is so exciting because if it's freestyle, it's just everybody doing all kinds of. I mean, I've seen plenty of boring freestyle matches too. Both of them. I mean, to me, it comes down more to the wrestler rather than the style. Some guys get after it, and some guys just don't.
That's very true.
That's fair. That's
very
100% fair.
It's very true. Like, Cal Snyder's not going to have a low scoring match probably in either style. He's going to go get after it and try to take 100 shots either way. Yeah. That's just, it's going to be based off the wrestler.
Yeah. And one guy on Twitter made a good point. He was like, getting off bottom, like, I was a terrible wrestler, but learning to get off bottom and fighting, it teaches you something as a man. It does.
Absolutely.
Or a woman if you're a girl wrestling. But like, if you're wrestling to be a world and Olympic champ, folk style sets us back. From my perspective, everybody who comes on here, like, you ask Spencer Lee, whoever, the best folk style guys, and they'll tell you folk style, freestyle doesn't matter. Wrestling's wrestling. But as a country, we're wrestling one style for half the year, and then we're wrestling the other style half the year. And if you look at the success of the women lately, I mean, our women had more champs than the men last year at the World Championships. Whether or not that's because they wrestle freestyle in college, it's very hard to say, but you got to wonder if we would be winning more world and Olympic medals if we were wrestling freestyle in college.
Yeah, and I think, and again, I can't really speak to this, but I would say it seems like you see some of these guys come out of college have pretty good championship runs, medal runs, and I think that's probably because of the conditioning of folk style wrestling. But I don't think there's I don't think you can argue that if you did freestyle full time that you wouldn't see more success, right? I mean, it just seems like it just makes sense,
right?
But yeah, I'm a folk style guy. So Justin, you're freestyle. Cenzo, you're freestyle too.
I don't know. I mean, I definitely like wrestling freestyle better, but I wrestled a little folk style today at practice, and it was pretty fun.
If I'm tuning into a match, like if something's on,
I like wrestling, so
okay,
it's pretty much just like
if something's on, let's say it's a dual meet in college between a 12 and an 18th school. or it's a freestyle event. The freestyle event is likely going to grab my attention more, where if two guys who are mediocre are wrestling folk style, like if you're talking the best freestyle and the best folk style's unbelievable. It's so entertaining. But if you're just a casual fan, it was like a Rutgers duel. Rutgers and somebody were on. I tuned in, and I can't remember who they were wrestling. And it wasn't Rutgers or the other team that were doing it individually, but I'm like, man, compared to all these freestyle RTC cards where I feel like you turn them on and you just start seeing more action. But it is hard to say like the best of the best freestyle match or the best folk style match. It is hard to say because, like you say, a good mat return and good rise. You're talking like if I'm watching folk style, I want to see the Zanes inflict pain. That level of folk style can't be entertainment without a doubt.
Yeah. I mean, I like both of them, but I mean, if somebody said, hey, I mean, the NCAA championships are my, NCAA championships, Big-10’s, those are, two best weekends of the year. Now, obviously, then early April going out to Dallas or, Dallas Fort Worth, that'll be phenomenal. So I like it all, but I like the style of folk style. I just like that control aspect of the sport.
For sure.
Yeah, that's fair. So Big-10’s, Brady Bergey's, all three of our guys to watch. 125, Shane, do you think anybody can toe the line with Spencer? I mean, you got guys like, Robbie Howard, we're Penn State guys, and there's others who look good. Do you think anybody can even keep it close with him?
I've spent a lot of time thinking about Spencer Lee and trying to put his dominance into perspective. I've told this story before. I'll tell it to you guys. Try to wrap your head around this. Okay. If you put me in the batter's box against the number one college baseball player in the country, you'd know after the first pitch, I didn't belong. Like if somebody said, now here's the deal, Shane, you got to swing at it. Okay. Yep. I could look like I belonged if I didn't do anything. Okay.
Sure.
Or maybe two pitches. If you put me across court, tennis, best college tennis player, had him serve it to me, you'd know right away like I didn't belong.
Sure.
Think about this. You put me in a singlet against Spencer Lee, I will not look a whole lot different than anybody else. Think about that. He's going to take me down. What's he going to do? Take me down in 8 seconds when he takes everybody else down in 10? Is it going to, is he going to tech me in 40 seconds instead of a minute 20? I mean, is it going to be like, nobody's going to be like, yeah, that guy clearly doesn't belong. What he's doing.
You're not wrong.
Big-10 wrestling.
No, not at all.
It's crazy.
But do you think that's part of the lack of competition there?
That's what I was going to say.
I would
like a
say
week
this.
late?
When you look at the Big-10, they have Lee, and then I think Liam Cronin from Nebraska, I think, is ranked second. He's ranked sixth in the country. The Big-10's got like 6 guys ranked.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't even know who that is.
Okay,
like not a shot at that kid or anything whatsoever. But I don't know who that
when
is.
you look at the track wrestling rankings, I think if you add everybody up outside of Spencer combined, there's one All-American honor, and that's Rayvon Foley from Michigan State, who I think was 8th. So
that's interesting.
Is Spencer's dominance unbelievable? Yes, it is. Is he dominating guys with deep resumes? No.
So let me ask you this. If him and Gable both win NCAAs, who do you give the Hodge to?
I'm almost embarrassed to admit this. I'm kind of being technical again, being right.
Sure.
I'd have to look at what the Hodge criteria is. Because it's kind of this argument.
Depth of competition.
Sportsmanship's on there.
Is it?
Sportsmanship
I would
is
say
on
this. When you look at baseball, big baseball argument, there's the most, outstanding player and most valuable. I don't care who you are. You can hit 75 home runs. If you're in a last place baseball team, you're not the MVP. They took last place with you. Okay. They don't need you. So that's kind of how I look at the Hodge. So it's like, who should win the Hodge based on the rules and the criteria, or who had the most outstanding season? And I would say 141 comes to mind. Heavyweight comes to mind. Yeah. Those.
What sucks, I don't disagree with you at all. What sucks for me in that perspective is that, and this is the argument you hear a lot, Spencer can't control that.
He can't.
No,
he
yeah.
can't.
camp.
That's what sucks. Like, if you're saying that, like, Spencer can't control it. All he can control is going out there and dominating everybody in the weight class, and he's doing that.
And he
can't help that there's not a Mason Paris, a Kirk, a Tony Cassiope in his weight class. It's wild to me that heavyweight is deeper than 125.
But I think the big thing with that is the Ivies. I mean, you put Patrick Laurie in there and Araju from Cornell.
Different game.
Those are two big studs.
Right.
I mean,
yep.
And then the other thing too was, there were some rumors flying around that Soriano might come back. And if he came back, he was going 125. I think that would have added some juice.
Oh, that would have been electric.
So amazing.
That would have been awesome.
That would have been. And I love the fact too, like, it's what I love about college wrestling. Nobody runs away from anybody in college. I mean, looks like Vincenzo be like, yeah, at 165 there's Marinelli, and at 174, there's Kimmer. So I'm gonna go to 150. Like, there's no dodging. Like in the Big Ten, you got to take your medicine.
Well, that's why Cenzo said Big-10’s is tougher than the NCAA tournament.
Absolutely.
And I've heard people say that before.
And I like the fact that if Soriano did come back, he won his title at 133. If he did come back and went 125, that's a boss move. Even if you lose, it's a boss move for sure.
He's still an NCAA champ. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, he's still an NCAA champ. Exactly. So I was hoping. I'm a little bummed out because you look at the possibility had he gone to 125, but 133. 133 last year was insane. That national tournament at 133 last year would have been bananas.
Mm-hmm.
Big-10’s even. I was on.
It would have been.
Shane, I think you and I were standing Matt's side during the 133 matches, and it's like, this is wild that there's this level of quarters and semis at the Big-10’s.
Yeah.
I think Gross and DeSanto was a semi last year, I think.
Or was it RBY? Yeah, it might have been.
It was Roman DeSanto.
Okay.
And then Rivera.
When did Gross DeSanto wrestle?
Gross DeSanto wrestled. I know they wrestled during the year.
No, they wrestled at Big-10’s.
Probably for third then. I don't really.
Yeah.
No, I think it was it?
It was probably for third because Roman wrestled DeSanto in the semis, and
I think it was a 4-2 match, maybe.
Yeah. He was getting booed a lot.
I wish Micic was. That was a bummer. And I heard today. Don't know if it's true. I heard Michael Carr from Illinois. I don't know if he's going at 49. I just saw that. I hope it's not true because he's a guy too. You talk about like the sleepers.
Yeah.
Michael Carr from Illinois.
He's ranked. I think his pre-seed is like 3. He's.
I've known Michael Carr for a long time. I used to wrestle with him. They're from Pittsburgh. They had a big family, all good wrestlers. I've been around them forever. Michael Carr is a good wrestler.
Yeah. He was a Big Ten finalist, I think, as a redshirt freshman. A couple years back, he lost to McKenna, I believe.
Yeah, he beat Nick. I think he beat Nick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just another guy too. It's crazy. I even kind of forgot about.
Well, I'll give you a story, Cenzo. So this is something I'm always curious about, and it's. My favorite play-by-play guy ever is Vince Scully, longtime voice of the Dodgers.
Okay.
So I call these Vince Scully stats. And you got to be. There's a fine line. You don't want to be digging maybe too deep in the weeds during a match itself. But a lot of times it'd be like, here's like the one that cut. Here's how this story came up. Kemmer's wrestling. It's like, here's Michael Kemmer. Blah 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 blah. He was a 4-time finalist and won a state champion as a senior. Blah blah blah. So I'm thinking in my mind, like when I'm broadcasting this, I'm like, God, I wonder who the hell freaking beat Kemmer.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing an interview with him on the phone like a few months back. I'm like, Kemmer, who beat you? And it was like, Cenzo was on there. Like, no way. You lost to him in the state finals? That's crazy that you guys were a state finals match. Shane Griffith I think that's who he beat. Kid that's, he's a stud. I mean, the guys Kemmer lost to was like, God, I just like that. I love those. I just like those things that you just kind of throw out there like, God, I never knew that. You might forget it 20 seconds later, but at the time it's like, oh, that's God, I never knew that.
I actually think I could tell you everyone he lost to in the state finals.
Who Kemmer did?
Yeah, he lost to Ethan Lezak our freshman year. Lezak beat both of us in the tournament that year.
Really?
Uh-huh. Then he
Wow,
lost.
that's gonna get tweeted.
Ethan Lezak. I mean, it's shocking that you guys were ever even close to each other in size.
Oh no, listen, my 106-pound bracket my freshman year was
You
insane.
wrestled 106.
Yeah, me, Kemmer, yeah, a bunch of us did. I came in 7th, I think. I think Dom might have came in 3rd. Dom Fories.
Okay.
Maybe unless he was a weight up, I don't remember. But yeah, so then he lost to Lezak, lost to Connor Schramm.
Connor Schramm. I knew it was Stanford. Okay.
And then wrestled me our junior year. Then our senior year, I think he wrestled Hayden in the finals. Hidley.
God. I mean, that is great stuff right there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hayden's another guy when you talk about NCAAs that I'm so excited for.
he's a stud.
Like, I'm rooting for Bergie, but if
maybe it wasn't Hayden. Either way, go ahead. I'm thinking.
Hayden and David Carr, those guys are just awesome. David Carr, I'm such a big fan of. Just as a wrestler, as a human, like he's one of the nicest guys on the planet. He stays very low key. He keeps everything that's important. Yeah, I like that kid.
Yeah,
I'm definitely rooting for him.
He's a stud. Hidley, man, Hidley's a beast. Hidley's an easy guy to root for.
Easy guy to
root for. He's a class act. I really like him. I hope he's another one. I'd love to see him get a title because I think
him and his brother, I think, are both ranked
too.
second.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Trent's 2, and I think he's 2 at 57. I'm pretty sure they're both second, so it's not far fetched.
They live about 40 minutes from State College, so the closed and everything. They put up a little mat in their garage, and like I would go over. We have like a couple guys who go over. I would bring like Carter, and we would go just like wrestle with them for 4 or 5 days a week. That was pretty cool. I
can't believe Pennsylvania wrestling. I mean, I went to the Dapper Dan in 2008, and the guy I was with said to me, he goes, "Shane, you'll never look at wrestling the same way." Gosh, it was spot on. And I mean, it was what is it? Whitfield? That's the right. So it was Whitfield versus, we had a Wisconsin team.
Yeah.
And then I got to see it was USA versus Pennsylvania. And that's where I saw Jordan Oliver and Tyler Graff for the first time. Went to overtime. Wow. It was a great match. Graff had a chance to finish and didn't. Oliver did, and he did finish. Quentin Wright, I think, was on that team. Pennsylvania high school wrestling is oh, dang it all.
So speaking of Pennsylvania, is Penn State your official pick to win the Big Ten championships?
I think with the
you can give your honest pick.
There's been times here's the deal. There's been times where it's Penn State, just you cannot ever count them out. You just can't.
But you got to look at that Iowa lineup though.
Here's what if Iowa brings their A game, they're going to be really, really tough to beat. They're experienced. I mean, I think it's safe to say, this is no disrespect to anybody else, it's Iowa's to lose, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
any team can have a great tournament, but if those guys wrestle, to their, if they bring their A game and they come and wrestle, they're going to be very, very difficult to beat.
Yeah,
like 10 ranked guys, like 1 to 4. I mean, it's
If Iowa doesn't. I was the favorite. Nobody's going to argue that, but they know too. And I would say this too. And I could be way wrong on this. I think there's some pressure on those guys because last year, now you got this year, and that Penn State team. I've done a couple Penn State matches, and I walk out of those broadcasts, and I'm just like, they are coming. Like,
I can't remember if we were texting or tweeting about it, but it's like we were both thinking the same time. Like every time, and Cenzo and I were just talking about this, every time Penn State graduates 2, 3, 4 amazing guys, the next year, there's no like rebuild year. It's all of a sudden there's Aaron Brooks and Carter and Kirk and everybody else. It's like
Bo Bartlett's a stud. Is he going at 49? Awesome. Will he go?
I don't know the answer to that, actually.
He's a stud. I mean,
I think he'll be 49.
I really like him. Robbie Howard, he's a stud. You got RBY, Nick Lee. I like Beard at 97. I mean, he came out
great.
Couple weeks ago, we're doing Penn State, Ohio State, and I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, Ohio State's in position. Like, they're in position. That was heading into 174. You got Caleb Romero at the time, ranked number 2. It's like, that's a match Romero's got to win, right? I mean, it's like Carter hit the nice win against Massa, but Carter beats him there. And then at 84, Brooks gets it done, and then Beard comes out. I love the urgency, too. Get out there and bam. I mean, he was like out of a cannon, pins Hoffman, and it was over.
I think Hoffman was Beard's last high school loss.
Yeah.
They wrestled at Who's Number One their senior year.
That's wild. I didn't know that.
And Hoffman got him. Yeah.
And the thing when you compare Iowa to Penn State is, I think I'm being fair here. Those Iowa guys have been around, 4 or 5 years, the majority of them. My assumption is that the amount that you improve, you're going to get more of those gains in your first couple years in a room. Once you've been someplace 4 or 5 years, you're making tweaks, you're getting better, you're probably really, really good. But that to me is the exciting part with Penn State. And one thing we've learned with Penn State, and Cenzo, you're right in the heart of this deal. Who cares if you're a freshman? Like, go out and win the damn thing.
Yeah.
Right? Go out and win it.
We don't rest what'll come in second or anything like that. I mean, obviously those things happen, but like, we want to win. Well,
we did a match during that Maryland. We did Maryland Penn State last Monday night, I think it was. And to me, and I said this at some point, there was something that was very telling to me in that whole, you watched the 2-hour broadcast. The most telling part of that broadcast was during the On the Mat feature with RBY and Aaron Brooks. And in that, Aaron Brooks said, "We think we're the favorites." And when he said that, I took note. I'm like, that's interesting. Like, and he wasn't, that's how you think. And that's how you got to think. That's why you're great. You got to believe it.
He 100% believes that too. He's not going to just say anything either. That's how Aaron is.
He's special. I mean, and I never, again, it's funny with Cenzo on this call. I never want to assume like Big Ten titles are easy to win. Like, I don't want to be a prisoner of the moments, but I like history, and I love the wrestling history. But again, a million things got to go right. No matter how good you are, you can't assume anything. But I mean, Aaron Brooks can win 5 Big Ten titles, which
I think he's going to.
That's never been done before. But again, I hate to even say that because it minimizes like, oh yeah, Aaron Brooks going to win 5. You're always under attack. You're always under attack no matter who you are. So who knows?
You think Penn State can win?
Oh, absolutely. They can win. Sure they can.
Are you rooting for them?
No.
Whoa, hey.
I am rooting for.
He's rooting for some good wrestling.
Yeah, if I was hooked up to a lie detector test right now,
no, I believe it, Shane.
Yeah, you'd be like,
I believe it.
I'm not rooting for anybody. I look at it like I'm wrestling. I got it. This is the biggest opportunity probably of my life up to this point from a broadcast standpoint. I will be ready. Like I'm worried about myself.
We know you're going to be ready.
Are you Shane? Are you commentating all sessions?
So the way that what we're doing on Big Ten Network on the TV side is session 1, which is includes the quarters, semifinals, and then the championship matches on Sunday. So yeah, it'll be myself. I'll be doing play-by-play. Tim and Jim will both be analysts. So, that's an interesting challenge. From a broadcast standpoint, that's an interesting challenge. You don't want to be stepping all over each other, navigating that. And then on Sunday, it's going to be us 3, and then Bo Nickel's going to be on.
Oh, let's go.
So, and I've always liked, he'll be great, because he's
a man.
Star.
Yeah.
So
Cenzo's the guy, and I'm not just saying this because he's on here, but he is the guy who needs to be like Bo's awesome. I can't remember if it was with you, but I remember Bo being on Big Ten Network last year for a duel, and he was awesome.
He was on our pregame, but I'll give you a Bo Nickel story.
Yeah.
And I razz Bo about this, and I will razz him about this forever. Okay. I've done 100 Big Ten championship interviews. I've done 10 Big Ten championships. I've done the interviews at all of them. I've done 100. We do them with every champ. I'm 99 for 100.
Yep.
There's one guy I didn't get, and it was Bo.
Yep.
No, which match?
He was a sophomore in high school. He was the last. I'm like, and he's, he just, I don't know. He apologized, and I love Bo. But that was one. The thing with that is,
what match was it?
It was when he won the Big Tens in Minneapolis.
Was that against Miles? Who was that against?
No, because whoever Miles was wrestling, didn't they forfeit to him? It was Miles was supposed to wrestle Rashid.
Oh yeah, he wrestled. Right. Shaq was hurt.
Did he wrestle Colin Moore?
He wrestled Colin Moore. Yeah.
Okay.
He won by 7, I think.
Yeah. Here's my little rant.
Yeah.
Okay. This is where wrestling needs to get better, and this is where it's great. Like honestly, Cenzo, you were a superstar. Like you are a star of college wrestling, but I never heard much from you. Like I was always intrigued. Like, gosh, I wonder what this guy's like. I mean, I never get to deal with you much, and that's why I think RBY right now is killing it on the marketing. Like Justin, I know we've talked about this before. People want to hear from the stars. If I'm a college wrestler, I want to be doing as many. And I know there's a fine line there. You got to stay focused. You don't compromise your wrestling. Yeah. But I like to talk, obviously. But if I was a college wrestler, I would make sure I'd be like, I am going to be out there in front of people promoting our
I think it's going to change as this name image this bill's going to pass. You're going to start seeing it pass. I think I never want to take away from anyone's ability to win on any level, which is why I'm always cautious with whether it's Cenzo with the last chance Olympic trials coming up, a guy with the NCAAs and Big Tens coming up. Like I'm always cautious for that. But I think at the same time, you are never more relevant than your senior year at NCAAs. That's the pinnacle of relevance. You're wrestling in front of 20,000 people. Even if you're an Olympic champ, there's a big difference between Burroughs and Varner winning an Olympic gold. What you do with it, there's such a vast difference there. And I think you're going to see that more and more. As I use Lolo Jones as a great example. She just finally became a world champion. But before that, she had Red Bull, everybody else as sponsors and brand deals because she's actively engaging. You don't have to be a world and Olympic champ to get brand deals. Not to say don't fight for that. You should want to be that. But there's also a lot of opportunities. And I've talked to Cal about this because I love picking his brain on it. It's like, I agree with you that don't distract yourself from it. But for a lot of guys, they're not going to become a world and Olympic gold. So should they not also try to capture the relevance? It's a fine line, and I always want to leave that up to the athlete and say, I'm here to help you however I can. You have to make that judgment call because for everybody, it just looks different.
Here's a story about RBY, and I've told this story a bunch of times, but we
want unique stories, Shane.
This was an aha moment for me where I was like, damn. So my son Logan is 17 years old. He's a junior in high school. Okay. And I'm just a big believer. You find your passion. I got 2 sons. One of them played basketball. He wrestled for a year. He regrets not continuing it, but you got to love what you're doing. Okay. So Logan, I think he wrestled like one tournament. That was the end of it. So it's like a couple of years ago. I don't talk wrestling with my kids that often because it's just there's not really that into it.
Yeah.
So Logan, long story short, he's on YouTube and he's watching. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm watching Roman Bravo Young. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh yeah, I love, and he watches DeSanto. I'm like, and the way these kids take in content, it's YouTube. My kids don't watch TV. They're watching
it's
YouTube.
Only YouTube.
That's what they're on. So, I mean, RBY, the fact that he's got something to him. I mean, I had a company call me like 6 months ago. We're just like BSing about wrestling. And it was like, God, if you had to, market one guy, and I'll be honest, I mean, to me, RBY is tough to beat. He's got a lot going for him. He's articulate. He engages. And first and foremost, you better be good. I mean, you can't be, 6-25 and you got to win.
But there's a big difference even between, like, let's say a Snyder and David Taylor. David Taylor's tweeting up until right before a match, and then he wins the world championship. Whereas a guy like Kyle Snyder won everything you could win, and he's barely on social. Half his posts he doesn't even do. He has people that he aligns with that utilize his platforms. And I think there's some guys that, I don't want to mention them, but I know some guys want the Kyle Snyder route. They want to go win an Olympic championship, hand their social off to someone for the most part. And there's other people who want to be super active. And I've talked about it all the time on the podcast. You just have to do what's best for you.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta be who you are, right? You gotta be authentic. You gotta be who you are. You can't force it. Cenzo, you were on there a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I do little social media stuff.
Yeah, you do more now. I mean, you're doing way more now.
I definitely do way more now than I used to.
What was your
But also, like you said, so you wanted to hear from me. I didn't get interviewed very much in college because I was on a team with a bunch of other good guys that got interviewed all the time.
But Penn State, and this is with all due respect to Penn State, it's different there. I mean, Penn State keeps, and you can't argue it. They've won 8 of 9. It's like, gosh, they need to be doing this and that. It's like, what are you talking about? Their job is to win national titles. That's what their number one priority is. And they've done a phenomenal job of that. But Penn State is, like, I would tell you this. Pat Donguy's been very good to me. I like Pat a lot. He's always been awesome to me. Yeah. But Penn State's, I do not have Cale's cell phone number. He's the only coach in the Big Ten I don't have a cell phone number. I think I might have had it once upon a time, but I'm not going to go behind Pat's back. I follow the rules. I stick with the process. But Penn State is definitely they keep things a little tighter there, which is fine. So
I like that too. Like,
yeah,
I think that only increases brand value. I think when Cenzo started coming on this podcast more and more, I think Cenzo's got a personality that it's kind of the diamond in the rough. Not everybody has that personality to come on and be personable with. Everybody comes on here and they say, I love that. Cenzo is awesome. They appreciate me. They like me, but they love Cenzo. And I think part of that,
let's not get carried away here.
But that's what they say. And then part of that is because you watched Cenzo have this amazing college career and you didn't get to hear much of that.
When Cenzo was on with Nick Lee Coffee Talk, I wasn't missing it. True story.
Yeah, a lot of people.
I don't hear from these guys. I want to listen to this, and it was great. I'm like, oh, this is good stuff. I enjoyed it.
And that's why for me, it's been a blessing. Even though, everything I do, I think, will this piss Cal off? Because I never want to do that.
Hey, me too.
I think that all the time when I talk.
So
I think that every day.
There's been opportunities that I think I could have taken that would have not been wrong, but I think would have maybe not made him happy. It's not worth it because I've had a great relationship with him. When I'm in town at Penn State, a lot of times I stay right at his house, and he's a great guy. And I never want to leverage anything just because I can. So I'm constantly, and I've had talks with him about even intent with the podcast, with marketing, because we do websites for a lot of the guys at Penn State. So he knows there's no malicious intent, but still, I don't want to get in his way. I'd rather be a supplemental balance of saying, look, I love to help tell so-and-so story, or to let so-and-so get their story out. I love being that outlet for them. But it definitely, like you said, Penn State's very tight-knit. And I think that's why if these guys play their cards right, there's a lot of brand value that after they graduate, where a lot of guys become irrelevant very fast, a lot of the Penn State guys do have that pent-up demand for that. If they play their cards right, there's a lot of brand stock there to pull from. That's one of the advantages of pulling back a little bit during college. I think you're seeing that with even other guys like Spencer Lee right now. He doesn't share too much. So if all of a sudden he's doing something, you're going to pay attention to it. And he knows that. And that's kind of his mantra, to do less. And when he does something, you pay more attention to it.
And you can't lose trust. I mean, so with Cale or with anybody, if you want to be the rock star and break a story or tweet something, you'll be the rock star for 5 minutes. But Cale
Shane,
is a cold-blooded killer. You don't want to be on his bad side.
My number one episode, 104 episodes in now, my number one episode is Cal Sanderson.
Yeah. Yep.
I had to take that episode down because he said, hey, so-and-so and this and that. He said, can you take that episode down? I said, 100%. I took it down instantly, and I get DMs, I get emails, I get tweets. I'm surprised I don't get letters in my mailbox. Hey, what happened to this episode? I really want to listen to it. I'm like, it's down.
Yeah, I listened to it before you got it down. It was good.
And I think a lot of wrestling. I think people are starting to value relationships more and more, and seeing kind of who the good guys are. And like we kind of said when we started this episode out, people want to listen to you. And I think part of that is not just your energy. Nobody has a bad thing to say about you. And in the wrestling community, there's only so many people that you can't not say a bad thing about.
And that's so important. I mean, that is so, I've always said people can say whatever they want about me. My biggest like fear is that anybody's like, God, that guy's so arrogant. Like that's some humility, knowing how to deal with people. Like that is, it's kind of, I mean, it's the old, how you remember how somebody makes you feel. That's the truth. Like, because you could be a 3-time national champion, have accolades 8 miles long. If you're a dink, you're a dink. Like, it's like, yeah, he's a great wrestler, but I don't want to hang with the guy. I want people to be like, yeah, hung out with Sparks. Guy's a good hang. Like that's
guy's a good hang.
You gotta be a good hang.
And
you gotta be a good hang.
Humility goes so far. I'll never forget when Cenzo was still in college, and it was like May or June, and he posted a picture of him going for an inside trip against Marinelli, not getting it, throwing himself in essence. He takes that picture, posts it, and say, "It's camp season. Call me if you're ready."
Like, those matches with Marinelli and Cenzo last decade in the Big Ten, I think it's the best rivalry there's been, because it wasn't one-sided. It was, and I remember last year we
both scrapped too.
Oh, I'm still shocked, and I shouldn't be, but I was. Big Ten finals last year, I'm like, they're not doing that again. Like, there's no way they're both going to get in that position again. Sure enough, here we go again. I thought that also, Big Ten final last year was going to be close, like 2-1 match, maybe. Kind of boring, but you guys never disappoint.
It was like 3-2, I think.
But it was exciting.
But when either one of you when you get the double underhooks.
Also, hey, freestyle, I would have won because I would have had a 4-point throw. Freestyle.
The other thing too, I always think about, this is what I'd love to do, and I gotta figure a way to do this, but because I've dealt with, I'm talking to you, Cenzo, I'm talking to Marinelli. I always walk away like from some of these great battles that guys have, and I'm like, man, these guys would probably be like best pals if they got to know each other, because they're so simple. Like, you talk to him much or not really?
No, I don't.
You and him would be it. You and him we're gonna try to line this up on the Big Ten. You and him breaking down your Big Ten finals matches next. I bet that would be fascinating.
Like, I can't do it.
No,
I can't do it.
Shane,
no.
Maybe 20 years down the road you could.
Correct. I think 5 or 10 years from now, I think it's more likely.
Yeah. If I didn't lose my last ever college match, then like sure, but
okay,
it still kind of burns a little bit.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it'll burn forever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it just will. But that to me is, if guys were completely honest, like, what did you think about, just really breaking stuff down from a mindset standpoint, and then technically during a match, that to me would be grab the popcorn and your favorite beverage and kick back, because it'd be money.
Well, I could definitely break down some matches, but I just don't know about all of that. But I was going to ask you, so this was just a question I had, just super simple general question, obviously other than those matches. Favorite matches that you've been on the call for, just like a couple over the past few years.
Oh, dang it. Penn State, Michigan a couple years ago comes to mind. Just because I was a play-by-play guy, and it was at BJC, it was packed.
I had an overtime match.
Yeah, you wrestle Massa?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. That was a good duel. I remember the first play-by-play match I ever did, I think, was 2014 Minnesota Penn State. I think Penn State was ranked number 1. Minnesota beat them. Ness had that big pin. That'll just always be special.
Jane, were you on the call?
Carver Hawkeye was cool.
Were you on the call for Penn State, Ohio State 3 years ago, when Ohio State was supposed to win in the ropes?
that was an interesting setup. I did interviews, and we were doing a 3-man booth, and that was
the most electric event I've ever been to in wrestling.
That dual meet was unbelievable. And that, I mean, you talk about everything mattering. I mean,
everything.
Like, people I don't know if you guys think about this stuff, Cenzo, or not. I have no idea. But okay. I'm like, when you match points matter. In a match like that, it's like, you're up 11-0. You're probably not going to get a tech. You don't want to give up the major. Is it like, I got to get a couple more points here because this might come down to points in the duel? You think about that, or not necessarily?
Yeah, you always want to, you always want to get the next amount of points you can get, right? You always want to score the most that you can. So like, if you can, I had a late major that match, and Bo had a very late major that match, like final second major.
That was the craziest.
Mm-hmm.
Man, Bo Nickel, some of the stuff he's done, that's where he turned him with like 3 seconds left, I think.
Yeah, the rec call 2 count.
Yeah.
I don't know. NATO getting thrown will forever stick out to me as, like, when I think about that duel. It starts off and NATO gets thrown into the
Carson
booth.
Kuhn.
Carson Kuhn. Yeah.
The scoreboard.
Carson Kuhn.
I'll forever think about that moment. Like, oh my gosh, this is going to happen.
Penn State's decision, right? He didn't get majured, if I remember right.
He gave up a decision because he
with
got
Neville's.
a few takedowns.
Well, the thing with Neville's was, if I remember right, Snyder knew he had to do he had to score X amount of points forever to win the duel.
I think
that match was Ant the Champ coming through, right? Against Moore.
Yep, beat Colin Moore.
I mean, that story with him, I think he won 1 state title in New York, and that match he wrestles 97, and then they wrestled Rashid, I think, in postseason.
Yeah.
Kassar's a tough story to beat.
Kassar entered 1 state championship tournament in Jersey, won it.
Off to Shore.
Oh, you were just really delayed. I was saying Kassar entered 1 state tournament in Jersey, won it. Entered 1 NCAA tournament and won it.
Jersey. So he wasn't New York. He was Jersey. I should know that.
Yeah,
he is Jersey. Yeah.
Well, he's from New York originally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Grew up in New Jersey.
Cenzo, what were you saying? Your screen froze for a second.
Oh yeah. So Shakur beat out Anthony like 2 days before that for the spot, for the postseason, and then Shakur got hurt. So then Anthony lost his wrestle off and then had to wrestle the number 1 guy like 2 days later.
And beat him.
That's incredible. I
mean,
that's
very cool.
It's a great story. And that was a huge, I mean, like you said, there was in those kind of duels, you can point to, 8 positions that win those duels. The nickel one, I forgot about that one with a couple seconds left.
Right.
Kuhn not giving up bonus points to Thomas Sell. I mean, those are big. Those are big things.
Mark Hall rode Bo Jordan for like the last minute of the match too.
What's your most memorable victory in a Penn State singlet?
I would say probably my quarterfinals match at Nationals my freshman year, against Daniel Lewis. Yeah. So
really?
Yeah. See, I got taken
hammer on top.
So I got taken down in like 15 seconds and then got ridden for like 2 minutes and 40 seconds of the first period.
Yeah.
And then I ended up getting a takedown with like 5 seconds left to win.
Here's the story. I got to ask you this, Cenzo. You got to just be honest with me on this one.
Be honest.
When you wrestled Isaiah Martinez as a freshman, when you're walking up onto the stage, are you thinking to yourself, I'm winning this thing. I got it.
No. My thought was, so I wrestled him. That was my 3rd time wrestling him in the finals as a freshman.
Lost in the duel, lost in the Big-10’s, right?
And pretty much my thought was like, I'm not going to let this guy push me around, so just make it a fight. And that was really it. Yeah.
When you pin him, what are you thinking?
Hell yeah, that was cool. I don't know, like I was just pretty much just pure excitement. I don't know. I was just very happy. It's hard to put in words. Like
ESPN just tweeted out what's one sports photo you'll remember forever, and that was one of
I saw that.
Cenzo falling back like this, just smiling, just like falling back, and then you see Casey jumping and Cal like that was just unbelievable. As like a fan to watch that, it's
that was unbelievable. So when you were going up there, I mean, you weren't like, your self-confidence level was okay.
Yeah, I wasn't like, I'm winning this match. Like, I promise you, like, that wasn't my thought. Like, I knew I could, but I was pretty much just, let's make him, let's fight here. And if we're going down, like, we're going to make him earn it.
Man. And then when you've been on both sides of it. Mm-hmm. I mean, that weight class is interesting because it's like a freshman always wins it. Right? I mean, Martinez wins it as a freshman, then you win it as a freshman, then Mekhi Lewis wins it as a freshman. I can only imagine. Then when you lose it on the big stage, then that's obviously the feeling is the complete opposite.
Yeah, I mean, that sucks, but you learn lessons from it. I definitely learned a lot from that match, and Mekhi Lewis is a good wrestler.
Good to beat him at the Bill Farrell. Get revenge.
Yeah. It was great to win the next one though.
Okay.
So I can talk about it and feel okay about it now. But
we'll see what happens. I mean, he might be in position to be an 8th seed again.
He got hurt, right?
I know he was hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he got hurt and he medical forfeit out of the first match this weekend at the ACC. So he'll need an at-large bid to make the NCAA tournament.
He should probably get one.
As a returning champ, I'm pretty sure he will.
I'm curious to where he's seated.
I don't know. I mean, he medically forfeited to Jake too while they were wrestling at Pitt, against Pitt. I don't know if it was there or not, but so I bet he gets a good seed too. He just won ACC.
Yeah, he's tough, and he was beating Lewis for what it's worth. What, 3? I think he was up by 3, something like that.
It was 3-0.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, you never know. I mean, you never
Jake
know.
Wenzel, Pittsburgh guy. I used to wrestle him in high school.
Who is that?
Jake Wenzel. I used to wrestle him in high school. He's from Pittsburgh.
You ever? I mean, being from Pennsylvania, who was your? I mean, you probably wrestled like some of your best friends. Have you?
Yeah. So me and Cameron are, especially growing up, we were very, very good friends. We would hang out together all the time, and then we ended up wrestling for a state title. And like we were, buddies afterwards too. And I've had to wrestle a lot of my friends. Like I've grown up wrestling with Jason Nolf. I've grown up wrestling with, Cameron Shields. All the PA Whippeal guys. Who
are your favorite guys, Cenzo, growing up?
My favorite guys growing up. I didn't really even watch wrestling whenever I was a kid.
Really?
I didn't. I said this on here before too, but I didn't really want to wrestle in college till I was like a junior in high school.
No kidding.
Shane, you got to go back and listen to all the episodes of Coffee Talk. If you haven't heard this story,
I will. I'll go back and listen to that. Wow.
Yeah. So
he almost quit too one time.
I almost quit a few times. Yeah, but whenever I was a kid, I didn't even know who was good at wrestling. So you brought up Varner winning it in 2012. I didn't know he won in 2012 until it was later. I didn't even know who he was.
See, I didn't follow it either, like in high school. And then when I was watching NCAAs after I graduated high school and I was watching Cal and learning about him, I reached out to him and was like, dude, your brand doesn't do justice for who you are. And we ended up forming a good relationship and working together. And from there, the more guys that became my clients, it was Cal, then Varner, then Burroughs, then Quentin, right, I think. And then I have all these guys as clients. And now I'm watching them. Now I'm like, I'm in the cult. And now I'm like,
yeah, you are.
Yeah. And now I'm just all in. My wife's all in. Like my wife's trying to come to the Olympic trials with me. Like all in. It's a cult. Like Mateo Pellicone starts at 4 a.m. this weekend.
Well, when you know somebody, it changes everything.
Correct.
Right?
100%.
Yeah. It changes everything.
And that's why for me, like when I watch people like that, like if I watch Cenzo compete, if I watch other people compete, I'm on the edge of my seat. I've always said there's no other sport that does that to you. If somebody you care about is wrestling, there's nothing like that. There's not a single other sport that's like watching someone you care about wrestle. No other sport.
Yeah, wrestling and MMA. Watching somebody,
Right.
if you know that if they fight, that's maybe even a heightened level.
No, I'd say wrestling more than MMA because I got a couple UFC clients, but when I watch them, maybe I just don't care about them as much.
Sure.
Like, yeah, these guys are all right. These guys are all right. Like, I
love
my wrestlers, but these guys are.
Yeah, it's like, whatever. You got knocked out. Okay.
Yeah, but personal relationships change the game, no doubt.
Yeah. And with wrestling, you're going back to folk style, like you're yelling for them to get up or to ride them out. Like you're feeling that. You're trying to will it to happen, which you don't see in a lot of other sports. There's nothing like it. All right, Shane, as we wind down here, last thing, your big, bold prediction for Big-10’s.
We need it.
Man,
if you don't want to do Big-10’s, we could take NCAA prediction too. But
yeah, either one.
Man, this is where I wish I had something that was like really good, right? Like, oh gosh, that is like earth.
Like you can't say Spencer Lee's going to win.
Yeah, I just, I would, maybe I'd spin it like this. 141 to me. And obviously, unfortunately, there's no fans, but in a normal year, put a $200 price tag on that ticket and everybody's going to pay it. Like that 141 pound weight class. And don't forget about Chad Redd. I mean,
no, yeah, definitely not.
He's a stud.
He's almost kind of like a tier right below the top three, but he could still beat all of them.
And
also.
He shows up. I mean,
yeah.
he's one of those guys that he can have slow starts, and then like all of a sudden, late in the season, he shows up.
Yeah.
And one of my Chad Redd stats is he beat Nick Lee.
Yeah.
In the Indiana State Finals. Indiana's got some good high school wrestling too.
Indiana's underrated.
What's that?
Indiana's underrated.
It is.
No comment. No comment.
Indiana.
No comment. What's your comment?
It's not Pennsylvania, but
they have a few good wrestlers.
Micic, Paris. I mean, there's a chance. I mean, let Paris, Micic, Lee. I mean, those guys. Well, I mean, Micic is a Big Ten champ. Lee could win a Big Ten championship. Paris could win a Big Ten championship. Then you look at guys like Andrew Howe. Surtis were from Indiana. Chad Redd, we just talked about. He's from Indiana. Indiana's got some
Shane, where do you get all this knowledge from? Do you study before these broadcasts?
Oh, gosh. Oh, man.
Dude, he's been doing this. Like, this is his job.
So you talk about, like, we talk about, like, sleeping in the vans and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What you don't, another part you don't see is maybe I'll FaceTime you guys, 2 or 3 times this week when it's 2 a.m. I mean,
no, I'm good. You don't need to do that.
I mean, that's the stuff that's not real.
But what are you looking up? Are you like
Yeah.
going into someone's history?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I want to know. I mean, the big things I like to know are, I mean, obviously on a normal duel, name, where they're from, high school, a little couple high school stats,
Sure.
And then Big Ten performances, NCAA performances. Maybe it's like you look at match history. Like I don't know this at the moment, but I know I think Ironman and Lee have wrestled. I believe they've wrestled in college. I think
they have.
Yeah, so I'll go back and dig.
They wrestled at
up
nationals. I'll tell you, they wrestled at nationals next freshman year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
was not good for Nick Lee.
Well, Lee's freshman year, this is where I really liked him. True freshman, right?
True freshman.
True freshman. Loses his first match.
Yes.
Comes back.
All the way back.
And wins maybe like 5 of them, and he ends up taking 5th. So Nick Lee's 5 and,
Nick Lee did beat Ironman 10-6 last year at Senior Nationals.
Yeah.
Yes.
So those are just little things to throw in there. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, I'm definitely studying that stuff. That's what I'll do. And then if you got some stuff like I saw something KJ Pilshred on social media that was pretty good, that Marinelli's going for his 3rd Big Ten title, and nobody's done that in Iowa in over 20 years. TJ Williams was the last guy to do it.
Wow.
So that's kind of a cool
Are you
deal.
on Twitter?
That's very, very impressive. Yeah.
Do you go on Twitter during the broadcast?
Sometimes, usually not as much Twitter, maybe at the break, because the halftime segments will pre-record usually. Yeah. So I might have 6-7 minutes, and then I might get on, maybe.
You got to eat. You got to eat during the day.
Yeah, I might not much though. I mean, I try to go to a place. It's like anything else. I try to. I mean, I'm pretty high strung, So I got to go to a focus level. It's hard for me to get there. But once I get there, then I'm locked in. Then
When you're in the zone, you're there.
Yeah,
So
you got to get there. You got to
Who's
get
your favorite commentary partner?
Oh gosh,
you mesh pretty well with everybody, but I'm curious if you have a favorite.
They all bring something new. I mean, Jim Gibbons. I mean, he won a national title as a wrestler. He won it as a coach. I mean, so it is from a technical standpoint. He's unmatched. I mean, he's done it. I mean, I think in that analyst role, that's where he brings a lot of value. Tim Johnson's a pro's pro. I mean, I've just learned a lot about being a professional from Tim Johnson. Get back to what we were talking about before, like how to treat people. That's Tim. And Tim, I mean, he knows what he's talking about. I mean, and Tim and I just have I think we just have a good chemistry together. So I enjoy that. Who else have I worked with? Those are the main guys. But I mean, JD Bergman did a couple matches with him last year. He was fun.
He's good. Yeah, he's good.
Really good.
I always joke with JD. It's like, the only thing about JD is it's like when you do a broadcast with him, you'll never be the best looking guy. He's gonna. I mean, the guy looks like a movie star. But JD's fun. I'm looking forward to doing some stuff with Bo. I mean, I like
Bo smooth. Bo and Cenzo are both very smooth.
Bo Nichols shows up last year to the Ohio State Penn State duel in a Gucci belt and shoes with no socks, and I was sold. I'm like, yeah.
I saw him.
So what, Cenzo? Like, what do you like? Like, what do you like wearing?
What do I like wearing?
Showtime, what do you go to? I mean, when it's showtime, where are you going?
Where am I going? I'm wearing my sweats, dude. I'm wearing a hoodie. I'm wearing a hoodie with sweatpants and my socks tucked in. No, I can clean up. I'll throw a suit on or whatever. I don't have a Gucci belt though. I don't.
Do you have a girlfriend?
No, I don't.
No, okay. That's another crazy thing. For whatever reason, that's another thing I'm always thinking about. Like, man, I wonder who's got a girlfriend and what. I just like personal. I like the personal stuff. I think
that's why I love this podcast.
Interesting. Yeah. It's like, hey, who's the like Vincenzo, if I asked you this, who's the one guy that you've ever wrestled with? Do you have any sisters? You don't have any sisters.
No, I have one.
If you had a sister, who's the one guy in the team where you'd be like, I hope this is the guy my sister ends up with?
We've talked about this before. So my answer whenever I was on the team would have been Zane.
Okay.
But he's engaged. So
okay.
That's on the team now. NOWC guys count. Anthony Cassar. I mean,
okay. Did Cassar have a girlfriend?
No, he does not.
He's trying out for The Bachelor. Don't
yeah,
you follow him on Instagram?
He's trying to get on The Bachelor. Yeah,
he's posting on Valentine's Day. He posted a photo of him holding a rose.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is funny. That is fantastic.
All right, Shane. So what's your big bold prediction for Big 10’s?
Big bold prediction.
Gosh,
and not that 141 is going to be exciting.
Big bold prediction of the Big 10’s.
Just one.
Gosh. I wish I had something for you. I'm like borderline embarrassed. I'm so boring.
Do you think it's going to be an upset? Do you think somebody texts their way? Do you think a number one is going to?
Everything goes chalk. That's even crazy too.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I have no idea how 141 is going to be seated, right? But I think you know what, Cenzo, that might be it. That might be it. I mean, I would say this. I think the Big Ten, and I'd have to dig through this, but I do think that the Big Ten is, in comparison to the last few years, I do feel like there's a real favorite at most weight classes. I think there's a legitimate favorite at 8 of the 10 weight classes.
I love Nick Lee, but I don't think at 41 there's a legitimate favorite.
There isn't. No.
God, no.
There's not.
That's a weight that I don't think. Yeah.
There's not a legit favorite at 41. And let's see here. And I don't think there's a legit.
I mean, there is a
favorite at 97.
Who are the top guys at 97?
Schultz. You got
Schultz is good.
Schultz, Warner, Amin, Kathy from Michigan State. I mean,
right, he's up there. He's good too.
97's
tough. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the favorite there. I know Schultz is ranked.
This is Mike Beard.
But Amin, yeah, I think Amin's. I mean, the guy's been there. I think this is the 6th year.
Yeah,
a lot of experience. Him and Hall had some good battles. He's looking to get over the hump.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Amin's really good.
What about you guys? What are your Big Ten bold predictions?
Penn State's gonna win.
I told you, double B at 57 is gonna.
Yeah, Brady Berkey individually. I think Nick Lee gets it done, and Rivera made me eat my words last year because I predicted that one of the guys on the Bash Mania podcast was going to win, and he was the only guy, and he ended up winning, and he let me know right away. So I don't away. Yeah, literally, like as he walked away from the mat, he told me, sorry to like ruin your graphic or whatever he said. So, and I was cracking up, but so I hate betting against Rivera because he's tough.
Two-time Big Ten champ. He's going for his third Big Ten title at his 3rd weight class.
He would wrestle Spencer hard. Like he was like the one guy that wouldn't really, tuck their.
He wasn't backing down.
Yeah, you see, like I will say, like you see a lot of guys like after a certain amount of success in college, like they start just throwing guys from an underhook on their head because guys don't even fight anymore.
Sure.
And like that's why I loved Rivera and Spencer wrestling each other because they were freaking tough matches.
Yeah, those were.
Rivera's always a must watch. He's so fun. So but I think I've always said this. Cael Sanderson is the guy who makes somebody like a Quentin Wright a national champion.
And he was at 3-time finals and won 2.
Yeah. And like that, that's, I'm biased, of course, but something about Penn State. I think if I had to make a bold prediction, it's that Penn State's going to win the Big Ten championship.
But how bold is that? Right? I mean,
but look at how ranked Iowa is from top to bottom. They've got a guy ranked at every way, where Penn State doesn't have a single number 1, and you've got guys like Spencer Lee ranked 1 by a mile.
But I think Penn State is still. I don't think. I mean, are they going to take 7th? I mean, they're going to be most likely 2nd or 3rd, right? I mean, probably. I mean, somebody's got a gun to my head.
Yeah.
Probably on paper, they're 2nd. If they wrestle out of their minds, they win it. If they are disappointing, they'll take 3rd. I mean, that's where they're going to be.
Yep.
I'll give you a team to keep an eye on. I'll give you one, guys. I'll give you.
Let's hear it.
And again, this isn't like some kind of like, oh wow, Shane, I can't believe your insight, your knowledge on Big Ten wrestling to say something like this. Nebraska. That's a darn good team. Nebraska's sneaky good.
They've been good over the past.
That's what I was going to say. It's not like I'm like, no, it's not like I'm like, saying.
I think we went there last year, and we went there and Wisconsin, and I think both matches, like our coaches were like, hey, or like just to like me, like we're projected to lose this match. I'm like, oh, like that's crazy. I wouldn't have thought that. Then,
I don't know. Like I'll give you a guy. I don't know if he's wrestling for Nebraska. I don't know if he's gonna be at the Big Tens for Nebraska. But you want like a guy that's really darn good that nobody probably talks a ton about? Ridge Lovett from Nebraska.
Mm-hmm. Ridge Lovett's pretty good.
Ridge Lovett. He's not going to be, you talk about like, give me 10 guys that come to mind in the Big Ten. He's not.
Yeah, he's not one of them, but he's pretty good though.
Am I getting better? Right?
Yes. No, that's good right there. That's a good like keep your eye out for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, absolutely.
Ridge Lovett. I mean, he's long. He can ride like a mother. I'll give you another guy. Now I'm going. Now I'm going. I got to get his Bird from Illinois at 133.
Okay, I don't know him, so
I like how you talked about it before, Cenzo. Fighting, he fights. Like,
very good.
DeSanto took it to him pretty good, but he fought him. Like he wasn't backing down. He's in Ohio. I think he's from Ohio. And he wrestles for Illinois, and he's a guy that's just of all the guys that when I came into the season, guys I wasn't familiar with, he's a guy where I'm like, I like this kid. I like this guy.
I'll definitely keep my eyes open for him this weekend then.
Yeah, he's
tough. It's a big win. We're gonna tweet you and like give you credit for it.
And then probably bring him on the show if he wins.
Right.
Yeah, it's gonna get. I mean, DeSanto and RBY. I think in that weight class, that's probably a collision course.
I got RBY
so,
by a
too.
mile.
RBY is he just makes it look so easy. That's the part with him. It's like, really? Like, it's not that easy, but he makes it look pretty easy. Cenzo, you were like that too. Like, he was kind of floated and was like, really?
Well, I appreciate that. Sometimes I watch myself wrestle and I think I look clumsy. So
you were a stud, man. I wish that we got to watch you guys, for a long time. It goes so fast.
it does.
It goes so fast. So
It really does
fast.
go quick.
All right, Shane, the lights are going out at your place, so that's how you know we've gone long. Any final words for
Gosh,
episode
I
104?
didn't have that light out. I was so into this, I wasn't even paying attention. No, I just thanks for having me on. This has been a lot of fun. Love talking wrestling. So
Of course. So do
and
we.
enjoy the next month. Going to be a lot of fun. Some great events. Best time of year.
Are you commentating at the Olympic trials?
I think for the Olympic trials, what I've typically done since I did it in 12 and 16, and I think I'll do it this year, is probably going to be doing the interviews with the guys that win out on the mat. That's my guess.
Is that on track, the Olympic trials?
That'll be, man, good question. Good question. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to go.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think when I've done it, it's been in venue, but obviously, well, I know there are some fans that are able to go, but
Yeah.
that'll be fun because, I mean, you look at the Olympic trials, 6 weights.
It's just
I mean,
nuts.
that's insane. That's insane.
Yeah.
That'll be a crazy couple of days.
Yeah, how about the last
Little
chance
bit.
a week before? They haven't
Yeah.
announced it yet, but it looks like it's going to be the weekend before, 27th, 28th, and then you stay in Texas if you win and compete at the Olympic trials. So that's going to be wild. I got to go to Miami mid-March. I might go from Miami to Texas. We'll
Oh,
see how it plays out.
Let
but-
her rip.
That'll be nice.
So, all right, everybody listening, go follow Shane. Go follow Cenzo. Tune into
Yeah,
the
you
Big
guys,
Ten
I'll
Network.
tell you where you guys can help me out.
Okay.
Talking about social media, and I hate to like grovel and go to this desperate measures, but I got no choice. My social media following is brutal.
All right,
we'll
everybody
pump it. We'll pump
listening,
it. Everyone
go
go follow
follow
Shane
Shane.
Sparks.
If you guys could help me with that, I'm telling
Yeah.
you, I need some help. I'm not afraid to, hey,
All right.
sometimes you
Yeah.
gotta admit you need some help. I need some help getting some Twitter followers.
And by the way,
Instagram
Shane, to help you too, what you speak on broadcast is what you need to tweet out. The more you tweet out how you broadcast, the more people are going to follow you. If they can get that energy and they can get that knowledge when you're not just broadcasting, that's why they're going to follow you. So the more you tweet out, the more people are going to retweet that and engage with you, the better. So everybody listening, go follow Shane because now we're holding him to a higher standard of tweeting more.
I appreciate it, guys.
Very good.
Awesome. Shane, Cenzo, you guys rock. This is episode 104. We'll be back soon. See ya. And that is it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. If you did enjoy this episode of the podcast, be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on more episodes. For more wrestling content, be sure to follow Bash Mania on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And follow me. I'm at JBash on Instagram and at JustinJBash on Twitter.
And the beat goes on.